Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're not going to be talking about the Grand Sport, we're actually going to be talking about one of my other cars. Today we're going to be talking about my 2008 Saturn Astra. Alright, before you click off of this video, just give me a chance here. First off, I want to say thank you for the support in my last video. Once I finally gave an update on all the different cars that I have in my quote-unquote fleet, it was nice to get back into the groove of things here. I'm quite a bit out of practice, so forgive me if it's a little less on point as my videos have been in the past. But before we get into anything about the Saturn, I know you guys are like, why are we going to be talking about a Saturn? Well, it's interesting. Stay tuned, but I am going to give you a little bit of Corvette content before we get into that. So I just wanted to try out a new feature that I got on this new iPhone here. It's called Double Take, and it allows you to use both the back and the front camera at the same time. So I'm going to try it on in this video and just see how it works out. So I believe that if I did this correctly, now you can see the Corvette and myself. So it's a little bit of an unusual feature, but the cool thing is I believe I can move this stuff around, and I can actually get rid of that and just switch over this, and then I can bring myself back and put the selfie side anywhere I want. So we're just going to give it a shot here real quick and just see how it goes. But anyways, for today's Corvette content, I just wanted to let you guys know I got a car show coming up. It should be, I think it's in a week or two. I got to check the dates on that, but we got the Corvette, was all cleaned up. I went basically head to toe on the thing. Whoa, almost dropped it. Went head to toe on the thing. I got the rims all shined up real nice, the tires all shined up, and turned off the selfie cam as I almost dropped my phone. So I'm going to show you under the hood, which is something that I hadn't gotten a chance to do yet, but with the car show coming up, it really took a little bit of time here and cleaned up under the hood real good. So get my ugly mug out of there and I'll show you. So right here was always a trouble spot. You always get a lot of dirt. It would be kicked up. That would come from the wheels splattering up in there. And there was just a lot of dust and everything. And I didn't get real heavy into it or anything like that. I just kind of gave everything a decent little wipe down. But I just wanted to make the engine compartment look, show ready. So she's looking pretty nice now. Got her all spruced up. No bugs. Yeah, a little bit of dust to wipe off before the show. But this is probably the nicest that it's looked since I've owned it now. Like I said, really took some time, and there used to be a lot of dust and from the trip that we took to Corvette Adventures in 2019. It was actually the pollen was really bad during that one, and it was all in all the little grooves and everything, and I didn't get too crazy with it, but like I said, I just tried to make it a little bit show ready, because most of the shows I always leave the hood down, and I kind of figured with this show coming up, I wanted to open everything up, take the top off, and just show off the Grand Sport in all its glory, because a lot of people are really impressed with how the engine bay looks and everything like that. So alright guys, so there's your daily dose of Corvette content. On to what we're really going to be talking about today. Now, I know that some of you are going to be like, why are you showing us a 2008 Saturn Astra? That's a very good question, and let me elaborate. So as some of you may know, last summer, my Ford Fusion that I had was my daily driver. I drive for work, and it got basically totaled out. Transmission went on it, and the cost of repair was more expensive than the car itself, and it's a little breezy, so I'm going to step back inside the garage. So I got the cash for it. Wasn't a ton of money, but it allowed me to find this car and pay for it cash out of pocket. I bought this thing for $2,500. So although this does look like a fairly small car, the nice thing that it has going for it is there's a lot of storage space in the back, and that's exactly what I need. And apologies if there's a little bit of wind noise here, but being able to open this up and back and have all this space to do courier work it was very, very useful. So I decided that I was going to go with it. And although I didn't get a lot of life out of it, I gotta admit, it was kind of fun while I had it. Still own it, obviously, but it was fun while I was driving it. Manual transmission in it. That was actually fun for a change, to be driving that every single day versus just being able to drive the Corvette every once in a while. So it was also a little bit of a curse because, as many of you know, driving a manual transmission when you get stuck in traffic and things like that is not the most ideal scenario. But one thing I did not realize about these vehicles was that this car basically was responsible for the dissolving of the Saturn brand of autos. So I know that might seem a little bit hyperbolic, but in reality, this car was probably the last car that Saturn took a chance on to save the brand. From 2008 to 2009, they made these, and these were actually brought over from Europe. It was a Opel Vauxhall, I believe, was the one that, GM incorporated that in, and then they imported this over. So this is a European car that was imported to the States under the Saturn brand, and it was meant to compete with the Jetta. I believe it was the Jetta or maybe the Golf, but combination of those. They wanted something that could compete with Volkswagen in that small compact market that they just didn't have at the time. So what is so special about this car and why I want to make a video about it? Well, as a popular YouTuber named Doug DeMuro would say, it has a lot of quirks and features. And as someone who has primarily owned, American brand cars, Chevys, Fords, Dodge, Chrysler, stuff like that. Getting a car like this, it was weird. So for those of you that have Volkswagens, you would understand a lot of the things that I'm going to point out in this video, but they just had a lot of little weird things that are European holdovers to us American drivers. It just kind of, it might be intuitive to Europeans, but not to us over here. So just to give you a rundown real quick about this car, and I'm taking some information I found off the internet, so it's not like I have a great memory or anything like that. But basically, it was manufactured in Antwerp, Belgium, and it has a 1.8 liter Ecotec 4-cylinder with manual transmission, which is a variable valve timing, about 138 horsepower. It's an import of the Opel Astra H, which is also made by Vauxhall in the United Kingdom, and I believe it's the Holden Astra in Australia and New Zealand down there. There were 12,000 units sold in 2008 under Saturn, and then in 2009 there was only 6,300 units. So that can kind of tell you how not great that this car did. By comparison, the Grand Sport Corvette, which of course is a special edition, there were 1,000 of those. So for only 6,000 of these to end up getting made and sold in the US, that was an abysmal failure of a car. And just to elaborate on that, GM shuttered Saturn in 2010, pretty much after the failure of this car, and it was after its failed attempt, I believe it was to sell to Penske Automotive Group, and since that failed, GM just decided they were going to give up on Saturn. And keep in mind, Saturn was a very, very popular brand of cars in the 90s into the early 2000s. I mean, they were kind of the cool little cars that a lot of people ended up going with because they weren't a traditional GM brand. So I'm just going to go through real quick and show you a few of the quirks and features that this car has that I wanted to share because I just think it's really interesting. And one of the first things that I love about this car, and this is something that my Fusion had, and I thoroughly enjoyed it in the summer, and I know some of you would be like, oh, that's nothing special. But for a cheap little car like this, I think it's something actually kind of cool, is that if you hold the unlock button, if I can get it to work here, if I double click, I believe, hold the unlock button, the window, or I should say windows, roll down. Now the back one there is stuck. It is not working, unfortunately. So, but as you guys can see, they're all down. Now I believe if you hit the lock button in the middle of it, while it's coming down, they will stop wherever you want. But I just like that feature. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I do enjoy that. All right, so the next thing that stands out a little bit different about these cars is the layout. Ooh, the layout here of the headlights. Now, this right here, this is the primary headlight. And this over here is the running light. And that up there is the turn signal. Now, in most cars, usually have the headlight is on the far outside, and then the inside will be like the high beam or something like that. But this was kind of all in one, and it's actually laid out differently than the European version, because to get in there and change the headlight, it's kind of weird. You're supposed to be able to access it through the wheel well, but the access gives you access to this spot over here, and this spot is really, really hard to get to. So I believe over in Europe, the headlight was primarily here, and then however else it was laid out. But this layout is different than what actually gives you access to change the headlight out. So another thing that this car has that's kind of unusual is right here, and these are roof tie downs for apparently attachments for things like a roof rack or something like that, which it's got the rails on both sides. So it's definitely unusual. I've never seen a car with that on it before. All right, so then I'm going to kind of show you one of the real unusual things that kind of stuck out to me. And this is because I've never had a car that had this before, but it is currently, that is locked. Now, a lot of you think, oh, hey, just go in the car and flip the little lever like most cars so you can get in there. No, that's not how this car works. So currently the doors are locked. If I come in here and I hit the unlock button, now it's unlocked. So there's a little pin, and it's kind of hard to see here, but I don't know. Let's see if I can get this, try and get this in here. Watch when I hit the lock button. That little pin comes out and locks the gas cap in place. Now, if you forget and you leave the gas cap open, now it doesn't lock. So you got to make sure that you have it unlocked, and then now you can lock it. And it doesn't open. So I don't know, it just struck me as kind of cool little feature about this car that makes it a bit unusual for an average car here. So all right, so those are basically the things on the outside that are the little quirks and features, and I'm going to show you some of the stuff on the inside here. So I know I showed this in my last video, but another fuel related little quirk of this car is the gas gauge. Now 0, 1/2, 1 of 1. That is not that really struck me when I first started driving the car. I've never seen that before. You'd kind of almost think that, you know, you think that it could be 1, 1/2, and 0, or, you know, E for empty, F for full. But this is just kind of weird. Now I don't know if that's a standard thing in European cars or whatever, but I just found that to be kind of a little bit of an unusual, you know, unusual layout to the gauge cluster. Now, one other thing about the gauges that I don't fully understand is on the speedometer here, we have this little red mark here at 30 and the little red mark here at 70. So I'm not sure what that is. If I had to take a guess, I'm almost wondering if that's like best like gear speeds or something like that, or when you're going to have the highest gas mileage or something. I could be way off. Maybe it's the highest performance, I don't know. But if any of you know what that is, why the 30 and the 70 have the little red marks there, if you could just let me know, because I've never seen that before. And when it comes to the interior, as you can tell here, I know this is getting dated because this is you know, the late 2000s, and this is a 13-year-old car. But the one thing that does kind of strike me about the layout of the interior of this car is it was very European. And I mean, it's just, you can tell that they didn't make many changes to this car when it came over. Pretty much they just took everything how it was and then just made it compliant with US regulations, but just has a very European style to the interior of this car. And to add to that European styling of this car, this right here is a perfect indication of that. That is military time, or as probably the rest of the world has it, is normal time. That currently right now is 3:15 p.m. in the afternoon. I cannot change that. That is entirely how this car is. There's no way to turn that into 3:15. I even looked through the manual. That 24-hour time is the only time display that you will get in this car. There is no changing it. So now when driving this car, everything's pretty straightforward to what you would expect in a car, but the positioning and the layout of some of the things that this car has is a little bit unusual. And first and foremost, the thing that really sticks out to me is for probably the first 2 weeks that I had this car, I did not know that it had cruise control. From my perspective right here, this is pretty much what I see. I never saw that the cruise control is over here. Most American cars will have, something probably like down here, or sometimes it'll be buttons on the steering wheel and stuff like that. But this car, all the way over here, and to get that to work, you have to click it and do that, and it's just unusual. It's not something that I was used to, as I've been driving for 20 plus years, and that just kind of evaded my it evaded my awareness for a couple weeks. But I was very glad to have it, and not having cruise control when you're driving a couple hundred miles at a time basically is not something I want to do. Now, another thing while we're here that kind of struck me as a little bit different about this car, and I don't know if this is a European thing or American cars just do this kind of differently than everybody else, but it's tapping of the stalks. Now, what I mean by that is that when you tap it, that turns on the directionals. And to turn it off, you tap it up. And then to go the other way, you tap it, and then you can turn it off. Now, the thing about that is if you do a little bit of a tap, it gives you the 3. You see how if you go a little bit, if you go all the way, 2 clicks, then you get the full directional. Now, the thing that's kind of weird about that is most cars that I've ever driven, they stay down. So when you make the turn, then they click back up, or if you go this way, and then it'll click to turn off. The fact that this thing just goes back to the middle is kind of unusual. And the same thing works over here for the wiper control. But as you can see on there, it's got a different way that it goes about it. So that is like, if you just click it once, that's for the quick wash. But here, if you go up with it, now it turns them on. If you go up twice, now they're on higher. And I think it will also be like, it's a little confusing because I don't have it on right now, but so then you tap it down to slow them down. So if you go up, that's slow. If you go up again, two clicks, that takes it to high. And then if you want to slow them down, you tap it down, and that slows them back down. And then you tap it one more time, and they turn off. And then if you tap it down once, that's where you get that. So, and then as usual, if you pull back, you get the sprayer, and that's pretty straightforward. But the stalks always stay in that center position, no matter what you're trying to do. You want to do a wipe, you want to do a turn, they always revert back to that center position no matter what you do. And that is kind of unusual. I'm not 100% sure too, but I believe that they have rain sensing wipers. So when it's in that first position, if I remember correctly, if I get into a really hard rain, it will actually speed up automatically, which, that's not really that unusual. But for kind of a low level car like this, that actually is kind of a higher end feature, I guess, if you want to say, for a car like this. Also, another kind of higher end feature, which I was surprised that this car had, is actually an adjustable steering wheel. So obviously it's nothing special for steering wheels to have adjustments for up and down. I mean, they've been making cars like that for a long time. But what I did find to be kind of interesting is the fact that this car actually has, and that was probably hard to see, but actually has telescopic steering wheel. Now, this is a pretty small car, and the necessity to need a telescopic steering wheel kind of evades me, because really needing that steering wheel, that's usually something in larger vehicles SUVs, vans, things like that, where you get a pretty sizable distance and where people are going to be sitting. But nope, this car's got it all the way out. And I mean, that's a pretty good amount of movement you get out of this car too. I mean, that's probably a good 3 inches, you know, well, maybe a little bit less, but you know, I'm saying for that to come out that far and go back to right there, I mean, that's a pretty good distance that steering wheel moves. And obviously for everything else, some of this stuff is a little, you know, the logos on everything is a little bit different. In case you're wondering too, the mirror fell off, but this was kind of neat where you had the brightness control for the instrument cluster. That one is like a push in, push out. All the locks are controlled from right here, from one button in the center. That was a little bit unusual. Some of this stuff is a little bit different because it's kind of based off of the European, but in general, you know, the sound and the computer, this is the computer button that changes the display up there, go through gas mileage and different things like that. And then obviously all the other controls, nothing really out of the ordinary of the you know, the shift pattern on the manual transmission here. But there are 2 other kind of interesting little quirks about convenience items in this car. So if you kind of look around, the one thing you will notice, there's no cup holders. And as many of you like to tear me apart in my Corvette video about saying one of the things I hated was that the cup holders are basically useless. For the longest time, and pardon how not clean that is, but whatever, it's getting sold, I thought that was the only cup holder that this car had. But you do have this little storage in here, and again, that I thought was the only cup holder back there. But lo and behold, if you actually come here, there it is. It's hidden in the bottom, and again, don't pardon the dirt and stuff like that. I cleaned it out real quick to get it ready for sale. But the cool thing about it is that this actually comes out, and this is like a sizer, I guess, if you want to say. So cans and stuff will fit nicely in this, and then bigger cups and things like that you get like at the convenience store fit nicely in there. But I just thought that's kind of cool. You know, for probably, again, like a week or so, I didn't think I had any cup holders in here, and lo and behold, it was just hidden in there. Now, another thing that's actually hidden in here, which is kind of unusual, is that. Now, normally above a door, normally you will end up with something like that. But this car has that. And it's got one over here on the driver's side too, which I'll zoom this out a little bit so we can see better. In here, that is a sunglasses holder, and it's got 2, one on each side. So instead of like having it up here where a lot of cars do have it, nope, sunglass holder here and the sunglasses holder over here. Just kind of a bizarre little thing that I have never seen in any other car before. And yeah, that's pretty quirky. So other than that, there's pretty much just all the regular straightforward things, nothing too unusual, but a few of those things I just kind of thought were kind of unusual little features that this car has. Some of it unusual for this, you know, class of a vehicle. Other things are just bizarre that I've never seen before, like the sunglasses holder up there, for instance, or the you know, the fuel gauge, the 24-hour time not being able to be changed at all. I just found that to be kind of unusual, and I don't know, this was a fun little car while I was driving it for work. Like I said, I got a better gas mileage vehicle now with that Prius. I mean, this thing was getting about 30 miles per gallon, maybe 35 if I wasn't running with the air conditioner and the wind was at my back going down the freeway, but in general, about 30 miles per gallon. Now that I'm getting to like 45 miles per gallon, I mean, that's, you know, that's quite a bit of savings on gas, and gasoline comes out of my own pocket for work. So my vehicle, my responsibility. Obviously I make more money driving my own vehicle than if I didn't, so it's definitely a trade-off. But yeah, again, you know, it's just a quirky little car. Wasn't really meant to be anything more than a temporary replacement for my Fusion. I enjoyed it while I had it, and yeah, it's is what it is. So I don't know, I just know some of you guys are probably like, I don't care about the car, we want to see the Corvette. But I just felt that this was something that was interesting, and these cars do have a pretty good following online. If you look up the Astra online, you're going to see a pretty good little group of people that actually modify these cars, tune them, and do stuff like that, because it is an interesting car, and not just the Saturn, the Opel and the Vauxhall and all that. So anyways, that's the 2008 Saturn Astra, and I haven't shown you under the hood yet, so I'll do that real quick. Before we jump out there too, I was just going to show you something in the back here that was actually not well thought out, but I think this might have been something that they had to add just for over here, but it was these guys here. These are the hold downs for child seats. Usually they are flush into the back here. This, it's got one here too, and then that one over there has it as well. But usually they're, like I said, they're built into the back seat here. And it looks like this was kind of an afterthought, that maybe U.S. regulations said that they had to have them, so they just plopped them in here. But man, do those things stick out and get in the way, especially when you want to put a box back here or something. It was always hitting them, or you set stuff on top and poke a hole in something. So I was intent on removing those, but given the fact that I didn't have the car long enough, and probably would have been against the law to do that anyways. So never ended up happening, but weird. All right, so hopping up under the hood here, just for those of you that like to see under the hood. This of course is a great engine. I mean, it's not the best engine ever made, but I know these Ecotechs, as long as you take care of them and you do regular oil changes and stuff like that, these are pretty solid engines. I know that a lot of good things and a lot of tuning options. Obviously that's not going to happen in this guy, but yeah, I mean, did its job, got good gas mileage, got me where I needed to go. Nothing special, and part of me is going to be a little bit sad to see it go, but at the end of the day, it was just a temporary vehicle and wasn't meant to be anything more than that. So there you go. That is the 2008 Saturn Astra 5-door. Quirky little car that Saturn made, or actually Saturn imported from Europe and released over here for 2 years. And the interesting thing about that is, if you really kind of look at the car, what car do you see a lot of in this thing? Two cars that I would say that I see a lot of, obviously the Volkswagen Golf and the Ford Focus, actually. Especially when they did the refresh in 2012, I believe it was, 11 or 12. This car shares a lot of body style with that car. And I know their primary intention was to go after the Golf, but this could very well be a Ford Focus, and I don't think many people would notice much of a difference between that. So with that said, that is all I got to tell you about the 2008 Saturn Astra. It's probably a video you never wanted to see. Hopefully some of you guys stuck around and watched it, and I promise we will be having more Grand Sport content coming up here real soon. Like I said, we got a car show coming up. So with that said, I want to thank you all for watching this video. For those of you that stuck around and actually watched it instead of going, who wants to see a video about a Saturn? I'm going to wait for the next one. Well, I'm sorry you left the video, but you're not going to see this anyway. But anyways, for those of you that do want to see things that you never thought you wanted to see before, I thank you all for sticking around and watching this video. More Corvette stuff coming, more Jeep stuff coming here in the not too distant future as well. Again, thank you all for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe. Also follow me on Instagram at 13Scorpio. Still working on a new channel name for YouTube, and any ideas, keep them coming. Haven't found anything that I really like yet, so we'll see. But anyways, keep the ideas coming. I'm not going to keep rambling here. Thank you all for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.